Boom. According to that, I am live. 2 minutes late. Sorry, I've been a bit busy running all over the place tonight, including uploading the winning video for the MASH battle over on Tokyo Digital Crew. Big props to DJ Sunny Side Up for that. I thought he had me, honestly. I thought his track was really, really good. I actually might have liked it better than I liked my own, of course, but I really liked his. And it came down to the final vote. I mean, it came down to one vote difference, basically. But until like late last night, it was tied. And I was like, wow, what are we going to do? So thanks to everybody who voted. That was a lot of fun. So we're going to do another one of those this week. Big personal update is, of course, that I am going to Australia this week. So I'll be there from, you have to actually update my calendar on the wall here, from Thursday. Actually, from Wednesday night, I'm going to Australia. So I'll be in Brisbane next weekend. I just heard today that my mum's house, we actually upgraded the internet. So before, the internet was so bad I couldn't even live stream. It may be possible to live stream, although the problem there is, of course, Australia is 1 hour, or Queensland specifically is 1 hour ahead of Japan. So it'll be really late at night. And in fact, actually next Sunday, holy crap, is it next Sunday? Oh my God. It's next Sunday. Today is the 3rd. I just signed up for a half marathon next Sunday morning. So I may not be in great shape to be doing a live stream at 11:30 p.m. That day, especially the half marathon is going to be, it's a charity event. I mean, it's one thing I really love about America and Australia and New Zealand compared to Japan, that in Japan, when you want to go and do a fun run, in Japan, it's not fun unless, it's full of rules and everything else. So, yeah, it's like in Japan, if you want to join a fun run event or, half marathon, you have to sign up 6 months before, and the cutoff is like 3 months before, and you have to go for the bib pickup 2 weeks before. And there's a ton of rules. You can't basically just think, oh, I feel like going for a run, I'm going to go for a run and do it. But and when they do it, you're pretty much in a park just running around in loops, whereas in Australia, or New Zealand, or when I was in Seattle, definitely there was some big fun run event every weekend. Early Sunday morning, they closed down the roads for it, some part of the town, and you get to run around and talk to people and have fun. I just looked up, just thought, well, since I'm going to Australia, it'll be a bit cooler. I've been running a bit lately, so I thought I might as well sign up for a fun run. And I found all the more sane distances, 6K, 10K, were actually already fully, all the places were taken, but there was room in the 7 a.m. starting half marathon. So I signed up for that. I think I'm just going to treat it like a training run. I'm not going to try to kill myself. I say that, but there again, who knows what will happen on the day. But point being, yes, next Sunday is going to be tough. I think that's what I'm saying. So I think I'm probably going to skip next week because this time I'm going to be shattered. I'll post some updates from Australia. I actually recorded my first video for the series of shorts I wanted to do on running yesterday. However, YouTube shorts have to be less than 3 minutes, and my video was 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and I can't be bothered editing it. I think I'm going to actually recut it, and so I might upload some of those when I'm in Australia. I'll probably upload some bits and pieces from Australia. I may even upload a recorded Tokyo Tonight. Maybe premiere it at this time, so I can sort of join you in the comments when I'm going to sleep or something like that. I'll figure something out anyway. But that'll be for a week anyway. I'll be back the week after that, back in Japan. We should also be doing a 2.5 Voyage soon. So anyway, that's updates from me. Plus September, I'll be going to America. So if anyone's around in Seattle, I don't know if there'll be a chance to meet up, but certainly we'll be looking to do that. So yeah, I see. Well, we've got everyone rocking into the comments, so let's say hello to everybody. We got Believe in Yourself, Boom Shakalaka, great to see you. Dan H, great to see you as always, of course. A lot of stuff happening in the news, more in the world this week, but certainly some Japan stuff to talk about. Curious what you got for me, as always, Dan H. I actually just today, one reason I didn't follow my normal schedule and I was a little bit late was I actually watched, I haven't been watching NHK News lately. It was like the one thing on TV that I watched. So I actually spent today watching on the internet, like every NHK 7 o'clock news this week. So I feel a little bit more informed. I feel like I should actually do this more often. So I'll probably look to do that going forward. Shubhas, great to see you. Good morning. Hello in Panama. Kerberos Tenshi. Currently, you can't win as a foreigner in Japan. Over-tourism is blamed on you, but so is the losses that the department stores make because not enough foreigners buy luxury items for them. Well, it's a convenient, I mean, foreigners anywhere are a convenient, excuse for stuff. I mean, we're to blame for the rice, we're to blame for, I think you can just sort of ignore it. If they focus on that as the reason, I mean, frankly, those department stores just haven't been good businesses for a long time. They did very well off Chinese tourists for a long time. But the fact that they can't survive just based on Japanese people going to them kind of, indicates that there's bigger problems. They're lucky that they've been surviving it all. Anyway, let's get into it. Who else we got in here? We've got covered Cobra Stanchu, we've covered Shivers, we've got Sadiq in here. Good to see you, Sadiq. We've got who else we got? We got Jane Motts. Great to see you. Thanks for joining the announcement of the winning song just now, as was also Believe in Yourself. Great to see you. Who else we got in here? Dan H still doesn't understand the hype of AI. This was the best joke I could get with feeding it a load of info about a story. I'm curious. I mean, I think, honestly, you're using it wrong. I use AI a lot. In fact, I'll be talking about IT in Japan in a little bit. I am increasingly mind blown by what it can do. But, that said, let's see. Norinchukin geniuses lost $12 billion, got huge bonuses for innovation. Vegetable seller made profit like an idiot. Clearly doesn't understand that real finance means failing upward with PowerPoints. Yeah, is that the joke that it made? I mean, it's not. I don't really know. I don't get it. I can't even pretend to get that, I suppose. So yeah. I don't, comedian, who knows, 10 years from now, we may all just have to be comedians because that may be the only job left that we can actually still do. Who else we got here? We got Tudom, the final vote last night. So of course, I mean, every vote counted in both directions, but having won it and your vote being the final vote, that was decisive in my direction. I do appreciate that. I did get my urine test. Yes, I quite happy. I'll actually, I'm pretty much just on the stream the whole time. I can provide a sample anytime. Got a few empty bottles around here somewhere. Don't know if that's related. Who else we got in here? We've got Aaron. Great to see you. Remember, smash the like button on the way in. I'm looking at the StreamYard interface, so I can't see the like, so I am trusting you to like the video. Remember, these are not monetized, so I do appreciate them. I do appreciate you liking the videos. Second coffee, yes, I'm lately on 2 coffees a day, so probably not a good habit, but I must admit it does help get through the day, and I'm glad that you're here watching. Brisbane is very nice, especially right now well, they don't really have winter. That's what's good about it. I was looking at the weather. It's like high of 20, low of 8 degrees Celsius, which is basically like fall, it's basically like autumn or spring. In most places there, it doesn't really have winter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a break from the unrelenting heat, which we're also going to talk about. Japan this week in Hyogo Prefecture, we had the highest temperature ever recorded in Japan. I think it was, again, I've got the story in here, it's like 41.7. Multiple times this week. There was always this belief that like in Japan, because it's close to the ocean, and the humidity becomes like a barrier. And there was this thing how Japan just can't get over 40 degrees. The whole time I've been in Japan, 26 years, it's always like, oh, Japan, can't do 40 degrees. This week, multiple places, multiple times this week have broken 40 degrees. So it's getting hotter and it's miserable because it is insanely humid. And, the way that most Japanese cities are built, if you're from a hot place that regularly gets hot, there's lots of shade, there's parks, everything is made for the coldness, for the heat. But, in Tokyo, everything is just concrete. So there's no shade, there's no escape. So yeah, it's pretty tough at the moment. Manchester, there's a yearly marathon. They shut down the streets for, they shut down the streets for the marathon in Tokyo as well. Oh yeah, did I mention? I signed up. I entered the lottery for the Tokyo Marathon. There's that dilemma. That came out, actually, yeah, that came out this week. So August 1st, it became open for international participants. You can apply between August 1st and August 14th if you're interested in trying for it. If you have an overseas address that you can use, which I did. I know Japanese people that have used overseas addresses to apply in that section because that way you get 2 swings. You get the general vote if you miss out on the foreign thing. It's basically it's 1 in 6. But it is that irony where, this, theoretically, if you get in, you kind of win, but your prize is that you have to run 42 kilometers. So it sort of feels instantly like you're not winning at the same time. But I'm definitely, if I win the lottery again, and it's a low chance that I'd get into it 2 years in a row. But if I do, I must admit, yeah, I will train for it seriously again, and I would probably try to beat the 1 minute. Three hours 31 minutes and 13 seconds. I try to get increased by that 1 minute 13 and beat 3.5 hours. So we'll see. But for now, I'm doing a casual half marathon next week. I could probably do an ultra marathon as a funny walk. Yeah, I don't want to do an ultra marathon. I know people who do it, but yeah, not my thing. We got Lara in the house. Sadiq was worried that Lara wasn't here, but she's here, so there we go. DJ Sunny set up. We have 11 mash battles under our belts, and we're not. I mean, I have like 10,000 MP3s in my personal collection, all of which we can use. I think we could do at least 400,000 episodes of mash battles. I really enjoy doing it every week, and frankly, I'll be able to do it from Australia. I'll try to do it before I fly away to Australia, but it's pretty, I guess, next week, not this week, but next week. I'll be doing it from Australia, but you can see actually from the last episode, I can just do it. I don't even need the controller, frankly, because lately, inspired by Sunny, who, like, when I was just mashing 2 tracks, Sunny was like playing 4D chess. He was like mashing 4 or 5 tracks into one mashup. So now I'm doing 4 tracks, and I've gotten better at that, which is easier to do straight on the iPad, unless I get like a really expensive controller. So yeah, he's causing me to lift my game. I'm getting more. I have a ton of fun with it. So I really appreciate Sunny being around every week and battling me. And I get to pick the track this week, which I'm not promising to pick one of the tracks from the after party, but I go out and buy a whole bunch of the music every week that you guys suggest in the after party. And if there's a track there that I really, really like, if you guys make a good enough suggestion, I will use it for the mash battle for this week. So think of some songs that you'd really love to hear in a mash battle. Well, let's make that the topic this week. So there we go. Black Tengu, come and do the Athens Marathon. I'd love to. I mean, I would. There'd be so much I'd love to do with that. The problem is, if I went to Athens, I'd be there to eat. I mean, I suppose don't eat before, eat after would be the rule. But yeah, I would be all for that. I'd love to go to Athens. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I don't know about the Athens Marathon. Is the Athens Marathon? It's not the real marathon. That's in a different location, right? That's literally in a place called Marathon. Is that like to and from Athens? I don't know. If that's in summer, I'm not going to do that. But if it's at a reasonable time of year, I might be into that. So yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Great to see a Black Tingle, of course. Rainbow, good to have you in here. Oi, indeed. We've got Eric Bailey. Now I can start doing this. It's time that pasty white dudes like me. Boom. I actually went and got a skin cancer check. Oh, that's something as well. It's probably in the topics here somewhere. It's time that pasty white fat dudes like me take responsibility for all of Japan's problems, from rice shortages to low birth rate. All our fault. Yeah, that seems fair. Actually, one thing I was planning to do in Australia was as a white pasty dude. See, it's funny. Even comments like this I can turn into both a topic about myself and a relevant community service announcement. I was actually thinking in Australia, I've been talking to people who've been getting like cancer checks and mole checks, and I've got this very pale complexion. I like being in the sun. I've never checked my moles before, which is kind of crazy given my complexion. Any sane person in my position, if I lived in Australia or New Zealand, I would have been like, it's like going to the dentist kind of a deal. You go at least once a year. I've never been for a check. So I was thinking when I go to Australia on this trip, I might go and get a skin cancer check, just get everything sort of looked at. And just as I was thinking that and planning to do that, someone put on Blue Sky that they found a place in Meguro that, does skin cancer checks and, full body check. So I went along to that. Bit exciting, got down to my undies and showed the nice doctor all of my moles and got pretty much an all clear. One we're going to have a look at that I'm not worried about. It's a tiny thing that I think they just wanted something to, a follow-up. But it was kind of cool that you can actually do that. It's kind of hard to find places where you can do skin cancer checks and skin checks in Japan. But if you want to know, there is information. If you just look up HIFCA, in fact, even if you just search dermatologist in English, they've got an English website, and you can search for mole check Meguro, and you can find a place. If you're in Tokyo, you can go do that, which is a Good thing. I didn't know that even existed until recently. Tokyo needs a green lung. I assume you mean like a green belt for improving the air or something. It definitely does, if that's what you're talking about. There was talk about that, about 20 years ago, because of the heat island effect. There was talk about, let me correct this a little bit. Ugh, maybe that'll do. There was talk about just trying to combat the urban heat island effect that Tokyo has. There was talk about, for example, mandatory, and there is mandatory greening of rooftops and stuff like that. But yeah, they can't do a lot in terms of increasing green spaces, unfortunately. I could whine twice and then run 2 marathons. Yeah, I don't want to do that. But there we go. Everybody liked the video, seriously. That Greek bread and souvlaki, everything Greek. I love all the Greek. I can definitely go carb load, then run. Carb loading and grease would be great. And then protein after. I could just eat basically an entire lamb after. That would be perfect. Istanbul Marathon may be interesting for me. 2 continents. That would be interesting for me. You can actually run. Is there like a bridge? I think I've mentioned to you for Bull. Is it Yükseldiri? I've got like relatives that are buried there. I've got to go check out the cemetery in Yükseldiri at some point. So I've got it on my bucket list to actually visit Istanbul at some point. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool as well. Anyway, but there again, I'm seriously, I decided after running the Tokyo Marathon that I was not going to do more marathons unless I won the lottery for the Tokyo Marathon again. It's not really my thing. The Australian thing is seriously, it's like a fun run. I'm doing it as a fun run. I might take a little bit more seriously than that. But yeah, I'm not touring the world doing marathons. It's kind of, I got pretty messed up at the Tokyo Marathon. So anyway, Sainted Sir, good morning, New York City. Nice to have you joining us. I think we're caught up with all the comments now. During your working holiday, you went to a dermatologist in Shibuya, says Cobra Stanchi. On the other side of the Hachiko side, best quote from the lady doctor was, "You look hot." I hope you got her number. Okay, into the topics. There are quite a few this week. Let's check them out. I was just going through, and I've just watched like 6 days. I watched from last Sunday until today. I watched 7 days of NHK. In fact, probably 8 days of NHK. A lot happened. We had a tsunami this week. We had different sort of dramas. So yeah. Anyway, first story. 80% of lodging operators in Osaka struggle with abandoned suitcases. Apparently, people, because for garbage above a certain size, you have to treat it as oversized garbage, which in Japan means you actually have to go and buy special disposal tickets, apply to the city council, arrange for a special day to have it picked up for every single item. Throwing away big things in Japan, and suitcases count, is an incredible pain in the ass. And so the fact that a lot of tourists lately are leaving empty suitcases and trash in these rooms, including oversized trash, which the hotel operators have to deal with. I mean, for a start, just don't be arseholes. Arseholes is the first part of it, of course. But there again, I also kind of see the thing that if people are like abandoning, if there's a supply and demand thing here, right? This strikes me as a business opportunity that, somebody should just go around, tell all the hotels, hey, if you've got an abandoned suitcase, I'll come around once a week and pick them up from you. And I'll have a used, cheap suitcase shop where people who need to buy a cheap suitcase because they've done too much shopping with the cheap yen in Japan, who want extra suitcases, can take them back. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I get it. 80% of the operators struggle with abandoned suitcases, but there seems to be a problem in here that solves itself. 43 degrees Celsius. By the way, I think I saw a comment before about Fahrenheit. But yeah, I skipped over it too quickly anyway. But yeah, and I'm not gonna get too wrapped up in the comments. But is there an eclipse happening somewhere? Okay, I'm not going to chase the squirrels too much there, but that sucks. Athens, 43 degrees. That's just, crazy stuff. But yeah, tourists who want a cheap suitcase, again, they're complaining about the expense and difficulty of throwing away abandoned suitcases. But there are these cheap suitcases. Seriously, like somebody should just make a business of collecting and selling these. It's like a win-win. So apparently this July, we just had the highest temperature Japan has ever recorded this week in Japan. Apparently, Japan overall was 2.89 degrees Celsius above average throughout the average of July. Um, the thing is, I mean, Tokyo, this is even more extreme. Every day lately is like, it's like 35 or 36, and we've had worse. It can get up to 37, 38 in Tokyo. And every day I look at my iPhone, and my iPhone says, according to the Weather Bureau in Japan, this is like today is 5 degrees or 6 degrees more than the average for this time of year. And it says this every day. I've had people pointing out that, yeah, these averages are going back to like the Meiji period. So, yeah, there is, is this really the average? If you take the average of the last like 20 years, it would be a different number. And fair enough. And it's not just climate change, of course. Japan does have, both there's El Nino and La Nina patterns, there's different weather patterns. But there's also an urban heat island effect that Tokyo itself generates. It's just like a huge aggregating source of heat. All the concrete gets hot, and the bigger and more populated the city gets, with more people running more aircon and putting more concrete in, Japan becomes a heat generating bubble, or Tokyo does. And so this means that while climate change is attributed to about 2 degrees of the increase in Tokyo over the last century, there is seriously like a 5-degree increase just over the last 30 years in Tokyo. It's crazy how much hotter it is in Tokyo than it was recently. But I kind of feel like, well, I mean, one, just the fact that climate change is controversial or considered political, or, like it's just liberal scientists trying to, make you crap in the woods and wear diapers and stuff. It's so obviously just a fact. Even if you factor in for all the other things, you factor in for solar cycles, you factor in for, random weather, you factor in for the heat island effect of having a big city, it still is getting crazy hot all the time. There's new records all the time. So yeah, it's like a double greenhouse effect in Tokyo, actually, Jane. It's Tokyo itself is a greenhouse within the larger greenhouse of the entire planet getting warm at the same time. And also, you think when they take measurements of the carbon content of air from the top of, I think it's Kilauea or whatever, it's one of the big volcanoes in Hawaii. There's like 3 times more carbon in the air than there was like 100 years ago. So it's fairly self-evident, and it's extremely unpleasant. I mean, it's a reason why, and I will repeat, do not come to Tokyo this time of year. One thing I've been doing with my running, by the way, is while in previous years I do like the sunshine, and it is good for you to go and get a little bit of sun, but you're taking your life in your hands, going and getting sun in the middle of the day this time of year in Tokyo. So lately I have been going to a gym and running on a treadmill, which is kind of antithetical to my philosophy of doing exercise and running. But being able to run and get proper exercise in air conditioning it helps a lot. And I enjoy going for a walk in the sun to and from the gym and enjoying the sunshine that way, but getting in my exercise there. I'm very much looking forward to going to Australia where I can run comfortably outside. But just this time of year, Tokyo, and the rest of Japan is just a no-go at the moment. So yeah, P. Morton pointing out this summer had a better rainy season than last, but it's been pretty dry the last month or so. P. Morton, excellent point. In fact, one big topic in the news just today is apparently they're already setting up for the excuses for rice to be more expensive next year. There are dams and whatever, just with the lack of rain since rainy season and the incredible heat. A lot of places are having water shortages, particularly in areas which are growing rice. And now they're talking about actually taking water tanker trucks to go and water rice fields, because remember, rice growing is incredibly water intensive. And so somebody said there's a Japanese expression I'd never heard of before, which is like a cicada trying to pee on a fire. But apparently it's a meaningful thing that has happened in the past, that right now they are actually trying to do this. But it could be about to destroy a lot of, it could lead to an increase in food and rice prices, because it's possibly leading to the crops failing at the moment in Japan. So that is a problem. Eric Bailey is the conspiracy is not whether it's happening or not, is that they won't tell us that. It's all over. It's game over, man. Game over. Quoting from the movie Aliens there, by the way. I think we should still try to do something. But there we go. Anyway, the butter shortage due to the grass drying out. Well, and the stressed out cows. I think that was part of it as well. There are solutions to this, of course. It is lovely in the southern hemisphere at the moment. Just saying. Anyway, other news. We've got the August 15th. In fact, the day that I come back to Japan will be. In fact, that is the A-bomb anniversary, if I recall correctly. Is August 15 the end of the war day? I should check that. I can't see it on my calendar right now, but in any case, the Prime Minister was, who is a bit of a kind of a war nerd, not in the sense of being, he's considered quite liberal as politics wise, but everybody thought he didn't want to quit PM because he wanted to be around to make a big speech on the 80th anniversary of the end of the war, but he's decided not to make a statement, which isn't apparently due to a speech maker saying, why don't we make it best out of three, was not apparently the reason. He just doesn't want to make a speech, it seems. Ishiba's had a tough week, by the way. His party, or the people who in his party who hate him, which is about 90% of his party, and they hated him when they voted for him to be PM. Remember, they voted for him to be PM basically as punishment. The party had just been through a huge slush funds and corruption scandal. And whoever the PM was going to be was going to have to wear all the public backlash and outrage for the party, and basically the main factions that would normally have the most people to choose the next PM were the ones that were most involved in all of the corruption. So, he sort of got it literally as kind of a way of punishing somebody. But now that they've just done badly in the election and the factions who sort of sat out the last election are coming back and saying, okay, time to give us back control of the party. And he's saying, well, no, how about no? The reason that we did so badly in the election was you guys, not me. So he's actually digging in at the moment, and his party is very upset. And there are lots of people in the LDP party apparently at the moment openly debating having an early election for a new prime minister. But he's fighting that at the moment. So it looks like the prime minister is hanging on. It's almost like an inverse popularity contest at the moment. It's weird. So yeah. What else have we got in here? Inflation at the moment. Well, they're debating increasing wages for small and medium-sized enterprises by 6% in Japan, and the businesses are fighting back against this. Prices are going up across the board way more than wages are going up. So people are getting poorer. I mean, people are still pretty much on the same wages that I was getting when I arrived here in 1999. There's been no wage inflation, and even price inflation is relatively new. Case in point, JR East Japan, which was established as a private company. Japan Rail used to be like a huge government-controlled company. It was privatized, I think, in 1987. And for the first time since then, with the exception of tax increases, the only reason, there we go, 1987, the only reason that train fares in Tokyo, like on the Yamanote line and so on, have ever increased, in fact, this is just the Yamanote line, was due to the sales tax increases and introduction. But apparently they are going to increase prices by about 5 yen, about 7% apparently. In fact, an average of 7.8%, and so on. Commuter passes by 12%, school passes by 4.9%, but they will be increasing fares for the first time, basically, since 1987, since it was established. So on the one hand, you can understand, first time since 1987, I mean, crap, that's nearly 40 years. But at the same time, think about how much prices have changed where you are. If you're from an English-speaking or Western country, or a country in the EU, I think prices increase more often than once every 40 years. So this is kind of painful and kind of a big deal, and it does exceed the rate of wage increases. So it is going to make everybody a little bit poorer. And I do ride on the Yamanote line, so it's going to impact me as well. And it sucks, but in the broader context, it's not so bad, but it does show that inflation is coming even to Japan. Semi is cicada in Japan. Yes, it is. It says semi-P. Oh, that's right, Optimus Prime. Well, now I don't understand the Optimus Prime reference, but yes, cicada P. It's like a cicada peeing into a fire is the thing. And exactly, Semi-P won't save the rice. See, Erin, as always, that's why she's the moderator. She knows what she's talking about. Trust her. Trust that she knows what she's talking about. Really interesting one here for me. Apparently, the Japan Productivity Center, which monitors Japanese sort of business productivity, is finding that Japanese IT productivity is dropping, and it's dropping dramatically in comparison to other G7 nations. This is an area that I work in. So I don't talk about my current job per se, and I'm not going to say it exactly, but I do work in IT. And yeah, I mean, I'll happily talk all day about all the reasons that Japanese IT is screwed and needs to pull up its socks. But what's interesting here is there's some graphs here. Productivity since 2019. So apparently, so since 2019, this just shows basically increasing. I mean, I suppose that the currency being devalued must be a part of this happening. Like the value of what they're doing is becoming worth less because the currency is worth less. I wonder how much of this is actually lack of productivity. But again, I don't fully understand how they came to this conclusion, but they are saying that basically what they're saying is that the US, UK, France, Italy, Germany, Canada are all improving productivity because they're using AI, they're using cloud, they're using modern IT infrastructure, whereas Japan is still basically beholden to the large IT companies. Fujitsu, NEC, NTT Data, poor Hitachi, they didn't mention Hitachi. Hey Hitachi, I'm still thinking of you. I used to work at Fujitsu, actually, or I was seconded there. Who else is there? There's Fujitsu, NEC, NTT. I mean, yeah, I think of Big Four. I think there's someone else though that I'm missing out here. But anyway, as well as the big consulting companies and so on. But typically they have a stranglehold on government and enterprise IT in Japan. And for an idea of the stranglehold, this sort of shows the percentages, the ratio. Most American companies, I think this is USA, yes, most IT people work inside the companies. Whereas in Japan, they basically outsource 75 or more percent of the IT workers, which means that those people's job is partly to keep funneling money back to their companies, making them work with fax machines and old Unix mainframes and saying, oh no, you don't want to use, those modern Windows PCs because, the whole world, they could be, our safety lies that, well, they're like the Battlestar Galactica, from the new series, that their safety lies in their use of outdated quasi-analog technology. The Cylons will never be able to hack Japanese IT infrastructure because it's too outdated, and that is their protection. Yeah. So they're being dragged kicking and screaming into the future, but they're directly attributing the lack of modernization basically in Japanese IT and the fact that they're captive to these, large Japanese IT companies that actually own the internals of IT departments of Japanese companies. And that's the reason that productivity is collapsing. And it's hurting the nation. So, yeah, interesting one there. Old Unix mainframes. Well, yeah, I mean, basically, most Japanese companies, well, most of them are moving on from mainframes now. But certainly when I came to Japan in 1999, and this is 1999, we were on Windows XP. We're not talking about Windows 95. We're not talking about Windows 98. We're not talking about Windows 3.1. But yet in Japan, most of my coworkers at my first IT consulting job had never used Windows before. They had only used versions of Unix, mostly associated with university mainframes. They were using dumb terminals and mainframes. And even now, most of those mainframes, they run on variations of Unix. So, mainframe computers, basically, the huge computers built by NEC or Hitachi or whatever to do basically run a single software application with huge volumes of data all in one place, all siloed. Basically the way that US companies and European companies operated in the 70s and the 80s was still how they were running a lot of even still today. So, yeah. So Japan is modernizing, but not at all like that anyway. Interesting one here that apparently, again, right-wingers in Japan are getting lately. I mean, Sun Seito did really well in the elections, and there's a lot of the sort of online kind of gotcha revisionism happening, including people saying that the prime minister, who remember that the entire right wing of the LDP and everyone else in politics hates the prime minister because they think he's a little bit too liberal, even though he's in the LDP. They're saying that his refusal to visit the Yasukuni Shrine, which plenty of LDP people don't visit the Yasukuni Shrine, is because they're saying that makes him an anti-Japanese leftist. He answered that I don't go because the emperor doesn't go. or the emperor stopped going when they enshrined Class A war criminals there, which sort of made it politically tricky. So basically, kind of, you have to respect. I mean, he's got a face that even his mother probably has to think about whether she likes or not. But at the same time, and he was elected basically as a punishment within the party. Literally, he was voted PM because nobody in his party liked him and they thought it would be the worst job in the world. And yet he'll still completely in stride say, well, screw you guys right back, and do it quite effectively. So I must admit, I do respect that about him. He is a strange person, but I certainly like him more than a lot of other prime ministers that we've had. What are we talking about? Japan doesn't have the energy resources or the water resources to catch up with the amount of new data centers that it needs. So that's probably better that they don't upgrade. I don't know. Japan's got a ton of hydro. Japan has a lot of electricity. It's got a ton of nuclear. It's got a ton of hydro. It's got a ton of geothermal that's not tapped. Right now it's got all the data centers that it needs. You're right. If it had data centers on the same rate that, for example, the United States has, yeah, that would be a challenge for the infrastructure. But the thing is that the IT companies are paying for the infrastructure at the moment. So, Japan is doing better than countries like Ireland and Singapore and so on that have been running out, literally, and even states in America have been running out of electricity and water for cooling of data centers. No question, it's going to be a challenge in Japan like everywhere else. But Japan hasn't hit the crunch on this yet. There's room to spare. But, we'll see. That's right. If Japan does actually catch up and improve its productivity, that'll be the next problem. Or if it does start uptaking AI. By the way, I should come back and say on AI lately, what I'm finding is a year ago when I would give AI like a huge instruction book, like 50 pages or whatever, and I would say, what does the instruction book say about handling the situation? It would hallucinate basically about like more than 50% of the time. It would come up with wrong answers that it would confidently tell you, you should drive a boat to Tokyo Tower from your house or something like that. I say, hey, you sure about that? It's like, oh, you got me, sir. No, of course I meant, fly an airplane. It's like, it would say this over and over, but the latest models, and I've been using mainly Anthropic, and privately I've been using ChatGPT. I find I still cross-check, trust but verify, but they are now accurate, and they're accurate to the point that I can now give really detailed instructions that I can reliably memorize and execute. In formatting, writing documents, checking large documents, doing lookups, and seeing what the lead. And I'm not. This is just casual use with work. This isn't stuff like, for example, I did something the other day where I had to analyze some videos that, not publicly available videos that I gave just, for example, to interpret, speaking performance. And it showed me that it understood it in like, seriously, less than 10 minutes. It absorbed 20 hours of videos and it analyzed them and the content of them accurately. So I don't know, AI is super mind-blowing at the moment. And yeah, of course, we're going to need more data centers for all of that. But yeah, there's a ton of, it's a fascinating, fun. I think we're heading for a really scary time with AI, but right now is the very, very short window where it's fun. So I would say to anyone watching this, go get yourself, play with the services that are there with ChatGPT, and don't just use it to write jokes. Try giving it any type of repetitive work that you have, or any work that can be done to instruction that you have to repeat, and try creating your own little models that you can, your own My GPTs and so on, to do things, and you'll be really surprised what it can do right now. Jane Motts, it's time we started looking at alternative energy more. This is where I have to be careful with my work, as I do this. I'll tell you, all the big IT companies are the ones actually underwriting the creation of a lot of the new power supplies. And because they've got their own renewable energy goals, they are paying for all of that new additional energy being added to grids to be done in a renewable, or at least a non-carbon increasing way. So in a way, the data center boom is actually directly leading to a lot of extra renewable energy. But you're right, in terms of alternative energy, fusion and new sources of energy, more geothermal stuff like that, 1,000,000%. This is yeah, it's always been. Even with the Industrial Revolution, it was always about energy, but it's about to multiply like crazy. So it is a really interesting time. Uh, Eric Bailey, have you asked it how many R's are in the word strawberry? Lately, they're getting that. Lately, the new models, after billions of dollars of investment and the world's best mathematicians instructing them, apparently they can count R's in strawberry now. But the question is, not honestly what the there are edge cases and tests, but the question is, can it be useful for practical things? And I'm finding increasingly the answer is yes. Coming back to Japan and disappointing sort of right-wingers getting hold of the narrative lately. A case here where PhD students in Japan, who just like, in other countries, frankly, PhD students are eligible for student aid for life expenses or whatever if they qualify. Some people pointing out a lot of PhD students in Japan are often, particularly from China, there's a lot of foreign students and a lot of apparently the recipients getting living assistance as university students in Japan. When the numbers came out, for example, that a lot of these were foreigners, this was something that Sanseito and other far right-wing parties that decided to go on a bit of a foreigner bashing crusade during the last election, making up a whole bunch of stuff, making up stories that, for example, most social welfare in Japan is being claimed by foreigners. Foreigners are not even 3% of the population. There's a thing going back into the, when the government actually said we checked the data and there is only 0.3% of aid goes to foreigners, which is far less than they are a proportion of the population. And remember, a lot of those foreigners are foreigners who, for example, are foreign citizens who are multi-generational Japanese, Japan residents, namely the Zainichi Koreans, people who are, for example, from international marriages, married to and raising Japanese kids. So you do want to give them aid because you're raising Japanese people and so on. But the internet reaction was, Japanese tax money should not be going to any foreigner. There's permanent residents. There's all sorts of people here, with situations here that, I don't claim social welfare, but there again, the idea that, for example, if you have a single parent who's raising, for example, a kid who's Japanese, that they're not entitled to, social welfare or whatever. Certainly the image is that everyone in Japan is a tourist and whatever, and somehow everybody's ripping off the country and basically playing on these sort of ideas, and watching the internet conversations about this. So when it came out, so when they said like most of the social welfare was going to foreigners, the government we checked the numbers, it's 0.3% only. And then the reaction from it is, you shouldn't be paying anything to the foreigners. This is still just as much of a scandal. And then there were other things where, it's kind of like, like you shouldn't be, they're just brains closed and shutting down. But basically the reaction to the popularity of Sanseito is everybody's scrambling and canceling benefits for foreigners. There are some legitimate things. I don't know why Chinese tourists and hotels were able to get driver's licenses without exams. That was silly. But the education ministry deciding to exclude foreign PhD students from living assistance is just like, literally, this is a reaction. This is just kind of validating. They don't want to be accused by right-wing parties of, these when these right-wing parties say that foreigners are doing too much, instead of like explaining and defending the positions, they're sort of just surrendering and doing what they're saying, which is cutting them off from access to aid which they might reasonably be entitled to. So this is kind of my comment here that Japan's a country of people just mostly given to terrorists. And if you look at this over the years, for example, the guy who assassinated Abe prompted immediately a reaction that we should actually find out. He was upset with the Unification Church, which the government kind of, because of their political ties, frankly, with the LDP and so on, was sort of ignored, and investigations were sort of held up and not really taken seriously for 20, 30 years. And then when Abe was assassinated, they said, well, maybe he had a point. Yeah, we should investigate them. And they did do the right thing. And even just today, there was an injunction seizing the property of the Unification Church in Japan to be able to pay compensation to its to members who are claiming compensation from them. But this was done immediately in reaction to a lone assassin assassinating PM Abe in protest against the lack of action against the Unification Church. And it was the right outcome, but you shouldn't do it because a person assassinated the prime minister for it. And this goes all the way back to how Japan got into World War II. All the interwar assassinations were basically extreme far right-wing groups assassinating liberal sort of pro-West and pro-modernization and pro-democracy sort of people. And every time they were assassinated, everybody sort of said, well, maybe, particularly when they committed ritual suicide and so on after, these people basically were recognized as martyrs for terrorism. And it kind of, it's always a thing that, well, if they were bullied, there must have been a reason that they were being, that they were being bullied, and maybe the bully had a point. Seems to always be the mentality. So this is the scariest part. It's not to me, I'm not worried about Sun Seito becoming the government of Japan, but I am worried that the, literally the fake urban myths and so on that they generate to, generate anti-foreigner hysteria to, boost their political position, is going to cause people to make concessions just because, they think, well, if they're this worried about it, maybe we should be reducing the rights of foreigners. It's not that Sun Seito is going to get in a position to do it. It's that the government is so spineless about this sort of thing. And this is what kills me about a lot of things in a lot of countries, not just in Japan. How rather than explain something that they're right about, they haven't been wrong about the way that they're doing things, but the moment that someone looks at them directly, even if they're wrong about it, they just crumble and give up, and they start like knee-jerk giving in on things that are literally just made up. It's literally gangster tactics, and they're literally giving in and just paying protection money to avoid the problem. This is kind of a pattern in Japan, not just Japan, of course, but and this is what I've always been angry about with Western countries and international trade. No one defends international trade. No one points out it's better for everybody to have international trade. You have cheaper butter. If you have access to unlimited stocks of butter with free trade. But when someone says, well, we should be protecting Americans first and having American butter, it's like nobody tries to defend, well, it's good for Americans to not have butter shortages. They'll say, oh, of course I agree with you, and I will actually be I've completely changed my mind on that idea. I don't know how I could have thought that was a good idea. You don't defend your thoughts. And again, it's not Sun Seito. It's the fact that the more mainstream parties could just crumble and concede to, frankly, these sort of, these intellectual terrorists that are just making up a lot of stuff and generating anti-foreigner, sentiment for political gain. This is my fear. Another great example of, just the absurdity of rules in Japan. Apparently, Japan railway firms are now encouraging drivers to wear sunglasses. Now, trains, I believe, have been around in Japan for about 150 years or so. And until now, most train drivers have not been allowed to wear sunglasses, even when driving directly into the sun and in bright sunny conditions. In fact, I'm sure many of them, for being banned from protecting their eyes, are probably suffering eye problems. And now here we are, 2025. Railway firms are now finally encouraging them to wear them for safety after apparently, yes, literally a whole bunch of train drivers have been complaining about eye problems from basically for a long time, not being allowed to wear sunglasses. And this is exactly like, to me, the more sort of pointless rules that they've had where, for example, there'll be a fire and firefighters fighting fires will be dehydrated and they'll go over to a vending machine to buy a drink, literally to stop themselves from passing out. And some old lady will see them doing that and complain to the city council that they were engaged in commercial activities while on the job. Literally going into a convenience store or using a vending machine was long considered a breach of the rules. And we're only now just starting to look at these sort of stupid rules. But Japan always rewards the complainers, even when they're idiots and terrorists and they don't make sense. Literally, when you have these situations, when you see a train driver wearing sunglasses when it's against the rules, the train driver will be punished and the company will bow. We're finally turning the corner on this, and it's taken 150 years with train drivers. It's still, is happening with firefighters and so on. The fear of one person, of one terrorist basically complaining is the reason that they have these absurd rules that, police officers and firefighters and so on are not allowed to buy a sports drink to stop themselves passing out on the job. So this sort of mentality in Japan that, and again, it's not just Japan that this is a problem, of course, but we're a small group of, frankly, complainer sort of terrorists who are completely unreasonable. complaining about something that is reasonable, they win. They win all the time. And my fear about Sunseito is that they're going to be like the old ladies complaining about the train driver wearing sunglasses or the firefighter having a Pocari sweat, and that we're going to be the victims of it. But we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, Japan rewards complainers. Well, no. So the thing is, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. The thing is that when the complainers are complaining from a position of being in the majority, asserting the stupid rules, I suppose. When they're able to portray themselves as being, part of the silent majority, it's the person being targeted is the nail that sticks up is the firefighter drinking Pocari sweat. It's not the old lady complaining about it. The old lady complaining about it is she's literally pointing at a nail sticking out by seeing a driver wearing sunglasses. That's not usual. I don't see that. I'm going to complain to the train company and have them docked a month of pay, because I feel much safer with a blind train driver than I do someone who would flagrantly break the rules by protecting his eyes. That's the mentality. Japan's Ainu minority, they opened a cultural center apparently in a place called Shiroi, which looks like it's near Otaru, sort of on that coast of Hokkaido. But apparently, this is, I think, opened by the government, and it's been open for 5 years now. It's a big sort of cultural museum and cultural center celebrating Ainu culture. Pretty rare, actually. I mean, they are very unsupported in the scheme of things. The Japanese government for a long time. Oh, wait a minute. Lost camera. What happened there? Oh, crap. I should have plugged in my phone. I'm using my phone as a camera, and the battery just ran out. Okay, this will take a minute to revive. This is going to be an audio podcast for a short time. I do have a backup camera, but it's set up for the after party at the moment, and my other camera stopped working this week. It wouldn't be Tokyo Tonight if there wasn't the occasional technical issue. Well, it's working all right. It's a little bit overexposed. Yeah, there we go. We can keep going like this. It's a feature. It's been a while since I've had a proper malfunction like that. Okay, well, I'll just look over here. So anyway, what was I going to say? Yes. So the government finally does build them a cultural center, literally in the middle of, middle of nowhere, and no one's going there. And it's a little bit sad. The thing is, I feel like Japan has a lot in common with New Zealand, and frankly, a lot in common with the United States, in the sense that although people, the narrative of Japan is that it was now Japan, is this long, since ancient times, sort of homogenized place where only Japanese people live, and that it's one of the only countries in the world to fight off colonialism. Japan has had a kind of colonialism domestically. There are more than just Japanese people in Japan. The Yamato Japanese people have been in Japan for about 1,500 to 2,000 years. And they've been very successful at pushing everyone else out or assimilating everybody. But one of those people, those groups of people, the Ainu, who used to live in Honshu, they used to live in the whole top half of Honshu and Hokkaido. And it was basically through a whole bunch of sort of wars and real life sort of colonization, just the same as what happened in New Zealand and America at around the same time. I mean, right through until the late 19th century. Ainu was still more or less sort of outside of Japanese central government control. So, and the fact is they are indigenous to Japan, and by all accounts, while there are people who sort of like the idea that Japan is a country, while there are the Shinto and sort of right-wing extremists who like to believe legends about Japan, that the Japanese people are sort of, were born from the gods into Japan. Well, these people have probably been in Japan longer than the modern Japanese people have. Again, why that threatens people, to me, this is like a unique part of Japanese culture. Some detractors say that, oh no, they just came in from Russia and from the north, and they weren't here from the start. But all evidence points to that they've been here as long, or frankly, that they predate modern Japanese people, and they are Japanese. So I think it's happened like with Welsh, for example. It's happened with Maori, that you have these internal cultures within countries that people basically have always sort of been uncomfortable with and were willing to let sort of die out. And right when it's about to die out, they've sort of realized, well, this is kind of a cultural treasure that we have. It only belongs to us and we should look after it and recognize it and treat it as such. And there's been these revivals of Gaelic in Ireland and Welsh in Wales and Maori in New Zealand. And I think the same has happened with Native American culture in America, where just when you're about to lose it, people sort of turn around and start to, realize that it has value. Japan is doing some things to preserve, but basically, I mean, Ainu language has pretty much died out. There are still a lot of people with Ainu ancestry in Japan. One big difference, of course, is that Japan's strategy, while it was to have wars against Ainu for a long time, when Hokkaido was fully taken into Japan, the policy was assimilation. It was that we will treat them the same as other Japanese, and there are no Ainu anymore. And that's not something that the British Empire did. It's not something in America. They didn't say that you're all just like white American people now. And that's not something that they did in New Zealand either. They didn't say that, well, they kind of did that to a degree. But fundamentally in Japan, they actually said, no, you are the same as us, and we're going to treat you the same as us. Although it was a form of colonization anyway. But again, just the lack of interest and the fact that no one really knows anything about the Ainu, it's kind of a shame, because I really think this is something Japanese should recognize as part of that's something that's unique to Japan. It's a treasure for them, and they should treat it as such. It's kind of a shame to see this not being celebrated as it should be. And it's far be it for someone from a colonial country to be lecturing Japan about treasuring your colonized cultures. But there you go. Hopefully the government will actually start to pay some more attention to this. Oh, let me go back to the good camera. I've just realized we're almost up on time, so I am going to speed up. Jersey, Isle of Man, Cornish, all of that indeed, Dan H. How long do you have to live somewhere to be considered indigenous? That's a good question. And there are people, it's a complicated question as well. But especially in New Zealand, there are people that predate Maori in New Zealand, for example, who the Maori largely not only wiped out, they ate them, and there are a few of them left, and they're sort of not happy that they were colonized by the Maori. It's something that a lot of white people say, that, oh, we're just doing to the Maori what the Maori did to the Moriori. We didn't eat the Maori. But also, that's kind of like, no, it doesn't give you, just because someone else beats their wife doesn't give you a free pass to beat your wife as well. The question of who counts as indigenous, but certainly these people do predate, and they were outside of the system of the modern Japanese sort of government for a long time. Anyway, I'm going to speed up a little bit as we are up on time. Apparently, Unseen Japan asked, is two-tier pricing for tourists? Is charging extra for tourists like they're doing at theme parks in Okinawa illegal discrimination? Apparently, they got a lawyer who said, meh, not really. That seems to be the answer for a lot of things. And it's just like, imagine, if you can't charge us an extra rate for foreign tourists at a theme park, then what are you supposed to do with people with keeping people with tattoos out of onsens? Again, congrats to Sunny. I really did love the MASH battle this week, and it was one vote apart. So I love that we're being competitive, and I'm loving that we're making it difficult for people to vote. Hopefully because both of them are good. I think that's the case. Hand grenade was found in Kyushu. Seriously, if you ever Google hand grenades and Kyushu, you'll find all the stories in Japan, or hand grenades in Japan. It's always Kyushu. There was a particularly violent Yakuza group called the Kotokumi that were based down there, and they would literally use hand grenades as weapons because guns are banned. So instead of knives, I think they went for hand grenades. I don't know exactly the story with that. Kyushu, by the way, this was the area that was supposed to be nuked instead of Nagasaki, but it was cloudy, so they went to Nagasaki instead. But yeah, they've been basically just sort of slowly nuking themselves, or at least their gangsters have, and I don't know why they keep finding hand grenades there. Apparently, when rice prices went from less than 2,000 yen for 5 kilos to 4,000 yen, and it was because there were literally a couple of distributors who were basically withholding supply and racking up prices by incredible amounts. That triggered this whole national panic. Math investigated itself and found itself completely blameless, saying that apparently, no, our mates that we allowed to distribute all the rice and control the full distribution and supply of, allowing prices to go out of control. Apparently, no, that was there was no distribution problem. There was no problem at all. Apparently, you can now fucking swear on YouTube if you're outside of the first 7 seconds. You can say any fucking thing that you want. So there you go. I think Sunny fell asleep. I have that effect on some people. It's a very relaxing sound. If you're worried about Sunseito, don't be, but go and read. It's like I said, they are causing, they're going to have some impact, and they do provide an outlet for some people to go and think. They're like QAnon. They're just something for crazy people to rally around and say crazy things. And you might laugh at QAnon, but they're running America right now, so what can we do? Entered for Tokyo Marathon, MASH battle, 10,000 people taken to hospital for heat-related illnesses apparently last week, and it might be more this week. So again, if you're planning to come to Japan for the summer, do not recommend. Stay home. Come after. City of Tamba, Hyogo, new record, 42.1 degrees. Anyway, shit is crazy. Do not come here. Australia's banning under 16s from having YouTube accounts, which technically would include my son when we go there next week. I won't tell him. It's ridiculous. This is literally, and while this looks like it's being framed as protecting children in Australia, look up ABC Media Watch if you're in Australia. They point out this wasn't on the agenda until Google stopped paying basically an internet content levy from its search engine to publishers in Australia. And when they said that we're not paying your gangster money anymore, all of a sudden, the publishers said, we think that social media is dangerous for our youth and you should ban them all from using it. And they fell in for it. If you're into Japan at all, if you're watching this, if you have any interest in Japanese history, Sarah Payne is incredible. This lecture that she gives on how Imperial Japan defeated Tsarist Russia and Qing China, which is from, the end, basically the turn of the 20th century. This is like, she's done a couple of these things on sort of Japanese history. They are the best, most amazing, interesting, fascinating, great lectures on Japanese history. And it's a fascinating just time in history. And she's so good, and she ties it to the modern age. She works for I think the War College in America. So she educates like American military officers on how to learn from history. And she focuses on the interaction between China, Russia, and Japan in this time. And she's so good. Mandatory watching. Sarah Payne, she's on Dwarkesh Patel's channel. He does a lot of AI stuff, but he also likes this type of history. And he's done these interviews and lets her speak, and they are amazing. You have to watch them. Here's the megaroderm.jp. This person found this dermatology clinic, and I went there and I got a cancer check, and I was all good. So they're hard to find in Tokyo, so I highly recommend that. Tsunamis, they came, they did cause some damage. Reminder that stuff like this can happen all the time. Everybody wants to replace the prime minister right now. Everybody's saying it might be Sanai Takaichi, who is the favored sort of Margaret Thatcher type, the choice of the far right, who might have gotten the job last time. I would say for people worried about a far right wing Japanese prime minister from the LDP, at least it's not going to be Mio Sugita, who is just batshit insane. And there we go. That is the last one. And somebody did yes, Eleanor G was going through a very, very deep chain of people. I am a professor in a film, and then saying all the sort of tropes relating to characters of people that do things that you do. And as lawyers in films, lawyers always know every loophole. They can cite loopholes that get you out of any apparently impossible situation with a counter to common sense answer. All the companies I represent are always evil, and all of the criminals that I represent are always innocent. That's what movie lawyers are like. I am going to go and set up the after party now. Thank you for keeping me company. Shubis, Sarah Payne, yeah, I think it's with an H. But go check out, like I said, her lectures on the Dwarkesh Patel channel. This last one is incredible. It's like the best history thing, like of just a lecture. It's not even animated. There's no clips, and it's just the best. It's the most intelligent and well presented thing ever. It's amazing. So you got to go watch it. After party time, there's the link. Remember to like the video. Thank you for keeping me company. I will not be doing a live stream this time next week because I'll be in Australia, but I will post stuff. It may be a recorded thing. I may be with you in the comments, but we'll see what we do. Anyway, thank you for keeping me company as always, and not to be confused with Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin is also incredible. The comments moved right at the time. Yeah, the Sarah Palin. She's a whole other thing. That is indeed correct. Sarah Palin is incredible for other reasons. Theodore Sharp, good to see you, man. And everybody, thank you for keeping me company this time. I'll be posting next week from Australia. I hope that you're all having a good week. Remember to stay cool if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and to stay hot, warm if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. See you at the after party. Maybe one of you guys can pick. Hey, OD Jr.'s in here. Good to see OD Jr. Maybe one of you guys can pick the next Smash Battle song. We're getting better. So keep me company over there. I'm going to go set up and I'll see you over there in just a sec. And boom, peace.